Welcome to the Bucher and Friends podcast, co-starring 10-year NBA center Ryan Hollins.
Couple pump fakes, leans in, shot blocked by Ryan Hollins. Hollins sent that into the third row.
6 rebounds and 8 assists.
Hollins climbs the stairs.
Down the floor. Ryan Hollins! He is the high jumper!
That's what I want to see. Give me some gunpowder and throw the hammer down.
And now, here is your host,
Let's send it over to Ric Bucher.
Ric Bucher.
Welcome to another episode of Bucher and Hollins, subsidiary Bucher and Friends, part of the United WeCast Network. I'm Ric Bucher. You can see me on FS1. You can read me on Bleacher Report. You can follow me on Twitter at Ric Bucher and on Instagram at Ric_Bucher. He is Ryan Hollins. You can see him on ESPN, and you can follow him on Twitter at the Ryan Hollins and on Instagram at simply Ryan Hollins. All right. I expected that we were going to talk about LeBron James and parenthood and the AAU circuit and all of that. I was expecting that we were going to talk about that. And we will. But we now have the David Griffin, former Cleveland Cavaliers GM, now GM of the Pelicans, and a story that came out on SI.com in which he talks about being miserable in building a championship team around LeBron James. So I will start there and we will work backward, if you will. What, Ryan, was your reaction when you heard the comments that David Griffin made in that SI.com piece?
Well, I was doing Jalen and Jacoby at the time, and it popped through, and it was such a strong statement. We had to address it. And, you know, when I think of LeBron James and I think of his greatness, he's the one star that's different of the greats of the Mount Rushmores in that he can turn it on and off. And LeBron's a thinker. So LeBron kind of is able to sort out and doesn't have this warrior mentality all the time of, is it worth it, Rick? Is it not worth it? And after he won the championship and he had his eyes set on L.A., I believe he definitely, he went out and performed that year. Amazing performance. Mm-hmm. But you knew he wasn't 2 feet in Cleveland. Mm-hmm. And for a general manager, that's what drove Griff crazy. So you can imagine you've invested $80 million into Tristan Thompson, probably about, was it 50 or some odd, from 30 to 50 into J.R. Smith. Mm-hmm. And you've really doubled down on that Cleveland team. And now, LeBron's kind of 50-50 on everything. Sure. And the writing is on the wall to get out the door. Yeah. So for David Griffin, for a general manager, he made the smart move and bowed out because it's probably, I don't want to say the worst position, because if you string it the right way, you can kind of alleviate yourself from the blood guilt, where a coach is in a horrible way, but, how do you evaluate yourself as a general manager? You don't play the game and you don't coach the game. You just put the players on the floor, and if the players don't work, they're likely coming for your head.
Right. Yeah, I believe the piece was accurate, and I know this from Griff's position, that what he had to do was not the way that he would build a team, that he had to make concessions and he had to make deals that he knew were short-term deals and weren't smart deals in the big picture. And that's what a GM is supposed to do. I also believe that dealing with Dan Gilbert was a part that wasn't underlined in the piece. And in one respect, I can understand why it wouldn't be, because Dan Gilbert just had a stroke, and I don't know what the status of his health is, but I don't get the sense that it's very good. It would be, I think, bad form, bad timing to really lay into Dan Gilbert. But I know that Dan and the way that he operates and what his expectations are were probably a bigger part. And that's where things may have been not given proper context or weight when it comes to this story. But that said, dealing with LeBron James has always been a load for everybody. And it was a load worth carrying because he could deliver, at the very least, get you to the finals. And in some cases, win you a championship. It was whatever you had to put up with, you were willing to put up with. I gotta follow your lead. I gotta keep you happy. That's gotta be my number one thing. You know what? I'm gonna get a ring. Okay, I can live with that. I may not enjoy it. It may not be what I signed up for, but I can do it. The great difference that I see that following year and now is that people don't see that it's worth it. I mean, that's why Griff is not afraid to come out and talk about things that I've been hearing for years. But no one wanted to ruffle the feathers of LeBron James or even upset him because they didn't want to have to deal with the possible repercussions. I just don't get the sense that people fear him the way that they did previously. And you're going to hear more and more about the challenges. And it's not necessarily fair, but this is what happens when you're at the top of the mountain and you do everything your way and then you begin to falter. A lot of people want to come back at you and make you pay the price for their having to pay fealty to you for all these years.
I mean, and also understand this, in terms of Dan Gilbert, it's hard to come to terms when you know that as much money as you spent, you set the table to do everything you can to have a great organization. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's a players' league. And I say that to say LeBron James is the sole reason that championship came to Cleveland. And if you're Dan Gilbert, you got to think Dan Gilbert's a guy who has literally taken his entire life into his own hands. He has control of just about any and everything, right? Snap of his finger, it happens. And the one thing he never had control of is LeBron James.
So are we not going to give David Griffin some of the credit? Are we not going to give Kyrie Irving some of the credit for winning a championship?
It's a team sport. There's no way that you don't. But guess what? I like to list things like this, Rick. Who can you replace? I can't put another person in LeBron James' shoes, right? Kyrie Irving, possibly that could have been Paul George. You know what I'm saying? Possibly that could have been Steph Curry, could have been Klay Thompson, could have been a number of other stars. Maybe five guys. LeBron James is in this equation of the Cleveland's championship. That's the name I can't leave off. So I don't think it's ever disrespect to any of those guys. But now when you speak value of, hey, what can't I do without? Well, LeBron James there.
Sure.
And you do have to credit Griff, and I was there with Griffin before LeBron. Well, I guess before and after him, however you want to say, you give the time lapse. But he's a communicator, man. He's a realist, and you can really appreciate his work now. Just making this Pelicans trade go through, man. Yeah. Building what he's doing in New Orleans, and obviously, unfortunately, you couldn't see it before. And from talking with people from LeBron's camp, from talking with Griff, and just working with him on TV, and my relationship, just like, he kind of just rolls with the punches, man. But he put that whole thing together, and the one thing that we've never heard David Griffin complain about was his credit for the championship. And, LeBron James wasn't the general manager. Yeah, he had hey, I like this guy, I like that guy, but he didn't sign and trade guys and move guys around. Rich Paul was the agent in the equation, and those guys really got kind of, zero credit for the work that they've done. And now you're starting to see it with what Rich has done in LA and signing guys and, getting Ben Simmons extension. And you're seeing with David Griffin in New Orleans, but that credit wasn't there from NBA circles, Rick.
For Griffin and the job that he did? I don't know about that. I think,
well, me and you, yes, to the naked eye, no, and he never made a fuss about it.
Yeah. I mean, look, the moves that he made, bringing in J.R. Smith, Mozgov, Iman Shumpert, the deal that he made with the Knicks, those were instrumental pieces. I thought that Griff made some moves that needed to be made that were key ultimately, and they weren't in a great situation. He really had to maneuver to get those additional pieces that were pivotal at that time for winning a championship. I want to ask you also now, since then, LeBron has responded on Twitter, presumably to the piece, and obviously I was on FS1 with Jason Whitlock, and we talked about this extensively. I'm sure you talked about it on ESPN. And LeBron has since put out on Twitter, all right, enough is enough. The throne has been played with too much, and I ain't for horseplay. Ether coming soon. And then a bunch of emojis, most of them fire emojis, hashtag James Gang, and then a black fist. What's your thought about this tweet?
I don't really know. It's too cryptic. I don't know if he's mad at David Griffin.
Yeah. I
don't know if he's kind of saying, did you see what I did during that run? You're saying my killer instinct was gone? But I mean, I can't deny, like, the thing about LeBron that drives people nuts and why he's my greatest of all time is that he literally has the ability to turn it on and turn it off. And I will say maybe the respect had been gone. The better yet, I would say the fear had been gone. Because there's a fear when you don't know how to get a championship on your own. There's like, I mean, what is this going to look like? What's going to happen?
Right.
And he kind of just did what he did with no Kyrie Irving and no Isaiah Thomas. His health wasn't there, and had one of the greatest runs we've ever seen.
Right.
So apparently LeBron feels some type of way. We just don't know to what extent, Rick. I'd be lying to you if I told you I knew what it was.
Well, look, it's a clapback of some kind. It has to be. And this is not about what has happened. This is about what he's going to do. Ether is coming, right? To suggest that it's I'm going to, okay, you guys are messing with me. I'm going to show you different. If he hadn't already done my playoff intensity level has been activated, and that turned out to be hollow. Look, LeBron, if all of this is getting under your skin, I don't want to tweet. I want to see you breathing fire when you come into next season. I want to see you playing in a way that I haven't seen you play in a couple of seasons. Because honestly, what Griff said is I've been saying since he made the decision to go to the Lakers. This wasn't about winning. Winning's not at the top of his priority list. It's not. And there's nothing wrong with that. But for anybody to pretend, including LeBron or Rich Paul, that it is, dude, stop trying to sell me smoke. It's not. I'm not buying. It's too evident. You're operating in a way that you never have before. You didn't care. You weren't worried about what kind of roster you had. You weren't worried about the pieces being in place.
True.
Like all the things that you've always needed to have, you weren't concerned about. You signed on the dotted line as soon as you could, and you signed a long-term deal. You even gave away your leverage, the leverage that you've always had. So you're operating a completely different way, and that's okay. You want your son to grow up in LA, and you want to live in Beverly Hills, and you want to start on your production company and making movies. Hats off to you. You've earned that. But don't try to sell me on I'm doing all this, and oh, by the way, I'm as hungry as ever for a championship. Nah, I ain't buying. I'm sorry. I'm not buying. And you're insulting me by trying to sell me that. Because I can see, and I can hear, and I can read. So
and
I don't
for
need
Griff,
this.
yeah, there's uncertainty there. Like it was the thing that when I came to Cleveland that made everybody so upset, and I know that feeling wasn't the same. A lot of saltiness and bitter. I mean, literally, there was a lot through the organization. Is that everybody walked on eggshells because they didn't want to be the reason that LeBron left. There was this you didn't want to be the reason.
But you didn't know. You didn't know if you were or not. You didn't know what the reason would be that would send him out the door, did you?
And then when he left, everybody, oh man, forget that dude.
Right.
you know, and everybody was so upset. It wasn't just necessarily that LeBron left, but it's that he held his cards so tight, But I mean, I'm not mad.
You didn't know what he wanted. You didn't know you didn't know what was going to keep him or was going to send him out the door. Or I'm going to get a little touchy-feely on you here. I'm reading a book by Brené Brown called Dare to Lead. Just started reading it. But I just read this section it talks about being clear is kind. Being unclear is unkind. And basically it's when you're working with people, let them know what it is that you want. Let it be clear on what you want, on what you're doing, on what is expected, whatever it is. If you are clear, you are being kind. And if you are not clear, then you are being unkind. And LeBron James has been unclear most of his career. It's not, at least from the people that I talk to who have worked with him, they're never sure. They've always walked on eggshells. And maybe in part because he doesn't know exactly what he wants. It's I'll tell you when I get there. I'll tell you when it's in front of me, whether it's what I need or what I want. But that's unfair. It makes people uncomfortable around you. And again, LeBron could overcome all of that because he was so good and there's so many other things, positive things about him, it would compensate for that. But now we're at a point where the biggest compensation was, hey, yeah, okay, so things aren't always clear. I'm not sure what you want, but you have a track record of getting me where I want to go, which is to the NBA Finals and possibly winning a championship. So I'll roll with being uncomfortable. I'll roll with being unkind. I just don't get the sense that people are willing to roll with that anymore, even after the fact. And I would expect that David Griffin's probably not going to be the last person that's going to speak out, just because people can. They've been holding their mud up until now.
Yeah, and what Griff was just saying, that it was like impossible for him to do his job,
right? Because
everything revolved around LeBron. And let's just keep the darn perspective here, Rick. Excuse my energy, but so Rick, this was a player who ran the franchise. How often do franchises make us walk on pins and needles?
Yeah,
players sit on 10-day contracts, and you don't know whether you shoot 60% or 70%, or you're passing the ball too much, or how you're going to be judged. So heck, I'm all for a player having control. We are the game. We are the market. We are the reason people come to see. And LeBron figured it out. So although, Rick, I hear you, it wasn't kind, wasn't quite fair. But if you haven't been on a 10-day, and I don't give a darn about the money we make or excuses. Yeah. You ain't lived your life on a 10-day contract or something. And I'm not saying this is the dumps. This is business here.
I hear you.
I ain't mad at LeBron doing it for the players.
I'm not mad at LeBron, and I dare say anybody who could control their universe, who had the power and the authority to make all the decisions. They would make their first inclination, especially in their 20s, possibly in their 30s, would make everyone bend to their will. But here's the thing that we learn as we get older, which is we don't know everything. And sometimes we need help. And for the same reason that I think that it is a major, major mistake to give a coach both GM and coach authority, I think the same thing when it comes to players. And what we see now is LeBron's not alone. LeBron, it was just the first. KD and Kyrie have done the same thing in Brooklyn. Kawhi and Paul George are doing the same thing with the Clippers. We see players now not only choosing where they're going to play, but who they're going to play for and who they're going to play with. And this is, again, I look at whether it's Lawrence Frank or Sean Marks, like they're now in the David Griffin position of, having to do what's going to keep their star players happy. And the problem that I have is when you're in the fight, when you're in the thick of it, I don't want the coach is too close to it, players are too close to it. I need someone who has the objective stand back view to be able to make the decisions on how we're building this roster, how we're spending this money. So I'm doing it both looking at the short term and the long term, and my emotions for the most part are out of it. And that's not what's going to happen in these instances.
And I threw out the factor of Dan Gilbert not necessarily having control and maybe having unrealistic expectations, saying, hey, Griff, I expect a championship with or without LeBron.
Yes.
Whoa.
Yes.
Whoa. From where?
Yes.
Who do you think I am?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that Dan Gilbert has those expectations, but there are a lot of owners that don't punch the numbers and know the game and see the X's and O's and study it. And I tell you one thing about, like, Griff knows basketball. Like, we sat around, like, Griff knows who can play, who can't play. And your owner's going, well, get me a championship. Well, dude, that ain't happening.
So
all right,
think about this. This is the part I think for me that wasn't captured in the piece. David Griffin had to satisfy and serve two masters, LeBron James and Dan Gilbert. Now, what do we know about LeBron James and Dan Gilbert, especially when after LeBron came back to Cleveland? They were never on the same page. LeBron came back and agreed to play there, but they only that was a détente because LeBron wanted something. He wanted to make good on leaving Cleveland. He wanted to make good with the people from where he was from. It wasn't about making the peace with Dan Gilbert. They tolerated each other. And as things moved on, I'm not even sure that it was minimal. Their conversation, from what I understand, their exchanges were absolute minimum. There wasn't a whole lot of communication between the two, only as needed. So imagine you're David Griffin, and you got Dan Gilbert, and you got what he wants, and then you got LeBron James and what he wants, and you're trying to satisfy both of them. That ain't a happy place to be. That is an impossible place to be, as I can see it. So I'm not surprised at all that he was miserable. But
you're supposed to be the reason that LeBron stays.
Yes.
You're supposed to be the reason he stays, man. You can add that.
Or if he leaves, that you guys don't miss a beat. So now how do I keep LeBron happy when he wants me to go all in right now? And I got an owner who says, oh, by the way, we need to be able to pivot. If that dude walks out the door, I got to know that we can still compete and we're not going to fall off the cliff like we did last time.
And we just set a record in season ticket holder attendance. And we even sold it up to them that LeBron would be here.
Right.
Kyrie would be here. We sold that up.
Right. So I want to, before we go, I do want to hit the second part, which is actually the first part, which was LeBron, and it's comical to me. It's funny for me just to say it. He was in the layup line dunking at his son's game, and then at one point his son made a nice play and he ran out onto the floor and he lost his shoe and grabbed the shoe and ran back, and that became a topic for 2 or 3 days. And I got to tell you, as a parent at AAU games, I'm looking at it going, what are you doing? Like, the kids, I understand. The kids on that team are loving the fact that LeBron James is at their games. But I'll say this, they're loving that he's there and that he's watching. They know that he's in the gym. Him in the layup line, him running onto the court, that doesn't add anything to it, as I see it, for the kids. And I just look at it and I think, if I did that, if I ran out onto the floor and I got in the layup line, my son would be, he would be mollified. If he made an unbelievable play and I ran out on the court, dude, he wouldn't talk to me. He wouldn't talk to me for a year. Now, I understand LeBron is different, but my point is, dude, you're LeBron James. You have to work so hard at being normal. You have to work hard at not taking advantage of the things you can take advantage of because you're LeBron James. There's a vast majority of people out there who have no problem with what LeBron did because they love LeBron. But if anybody else did it, they'd be looking at it going, dude, what are you doing? Sit your ass down. And that's the problem that I have. In that arena, in that situation, and I've seen other guys. I've seen Matt Barnes coach his team. I've seen his coach his sons in Vegas, and his sons were tearing it up. You would have never known that they were Matt Barnes' sons by the way he coached the team or by the way he reacted. David West is in watching his son, hat low. It came around the gym. Everybody's like, David West is here. Everybody was like all excited. And I had to scan the stands to find him just because I wanted to go over and say hello. To me, that is the approach that I would hope that LeBron James would take, that he would understand your shadow is so immense. The focus, anytime you're around, is naturally going to fall on you. You have to go out of your way to not distract from what's supposed to be your son and your son's teammates playing in a tournament. Now, you tell me, you're a father, you tell me where I'm wrong on this. Because I know there's a lot of players that have defended him, and I can appreciate what they're saying, but I think they're wrong.
There's layers to it. I have coached my son up. I refuse to coach my son personally when it comes to AAU. I want to have nothing to do with it because I want it to be his show, his success. Mm-hmm. That's my mindset. I don't even want to be, don't even look at me.
And you know that when you're in the gym, everybody knows
it's different.
That's Ryan Hollins. And that's Ryan Hollins' son.
And I've also coached AAU. And, I can't lie. I had an itch to go hop in the layup lines and say, hey, man, you guys aren't going hard enough. Let me show you what it's supposed to look like. I want to hop out there. Mm-hmm. I do, even before the games. And I didn't. But as far as the excitement, I feel like LeBron took it on as he would have cheered his own teammates on in an NBA game. Mm-hmm. He brought that atmosphere to the game. And he has allowed himself to be tangible, accessible to billions of people. Mm-hmm. And just the comfort level, the insecurities are gone. He is doing what he wants to do.
Yes.
And he's making his own rules. And ultimately, at the end of the day, he's there for his son. And I don't have a problem with it. And I don't think that, anybody was saying that or taking it that far.
Right.
But as an African American male and grown up in, urban situations, I know these daddies aren't there. And it's the real, hold on, he's a dad and he's there.
Right.
And that comes from a place of passion with a lot of these guys going, man, even I'll take LeVar Ball as my daddy.
Sure.
He's there. I'll take LeVar Ball as my daddy. I'll take LeBron James as my daddy with their imperfections. Is it possibly the correct etiquette? No. Do we know what the correct etiquette is in these situations? No, they're all getting rewritten, Rick. Right? So I'm not against it. I wouldn't do it personally, but I don't mind LeBron doing it. And I think he's really a trendsetter. He's changing so many things. And was wild, Rick, and I want to know what you think about this, or I'm just going to ask this to you. I feel like as a former player, AAU basketball was the funnest time of my life. If you played AAU sports, club sport, it was the funnest time. You're living off Doritos and Gatorade, bro. Playing back-to-back games.
And playing 5 games in a weekend. Yeah.
And it's not really your coach. It's like your boy's dad or something. You guys are doing what you want,
right?
Essentially,
right? It's not your high school coach.
You guys walk around a strip mall, whatever. After all day, you're on your legs. That's the biggest worry. Do you feel like LeBron James is kind of going back to like, hey, this was my safe place, AAU basketball.
Yeah, maybe. I can see that as a possibility. And look, what he did, is it some major indiscretion? No. And look, a lot of this was instigated because Jason Whitlock on Speak for Yourself did his Whitlog to open the show a couple days ago, in which he said to LeBron, I'm going to say to you what you said to your mom. Sit your ass down. Like, it doesn't need to be all about you. This is not your time. This is not your place.
I got to ask you this, Rick, because what was the temperature like? Kind of, because this was some national, like, yo, Whitlock, we're coming for you. I thought I was the most hated man in sports for a while.
Oh, no. No.
What was the temperature like, bro?
Hot. And you know what's funny is, in this instance, I agree with him as far as, and again, it's just from my experience. I'm conscious of this with my kids. First of all, as I said, I just look at it and go, if I did what LeBron did, my kids would not talk to me. My son, and I said this on the show, my son in middle school hit 2 free throws with about 3 seconds left. End up being, they were down by 1. He goes up, swishes 2, immediately gets into the press. They end up winning. I had a clip, I think my wife sent it to me, of him hitting the 2 free throws, and I put it on Instagram. And I talked about just how proud I was that he's worked on his game, etc. His form was great, like just proud dad moment. And he saw it and he came to me and he said, Dad, I wish you had asked me before you posted that. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I was just proud of you. But when dad steps in and dad begins to advertise you in his world, like that just changes everything. Now it feels like you're taking something from me, and it may have been a good intention, but that's mine. Who's to say I didn't want that attention? Or it made me realize, you know what? He wants to ball and he wants to do his thing, and dad can be proud of him, but dad, can you look at this through what I'm doing as opposed to what you want to do or you want me to do?
Well, check this out though, Rick. So you and your son have that relationship, but as I think more, you gotta understand, Bronny's the firstborn.
Yeah.
And I'm a history major. We always got to look back.
Yeah.
LeBron and his mother probably have more of a, brother-sister relationship almost. Forgive me if I'm wrong. I don't want to assume. She was a young mother.
Yep.
And I'm sure they speak to each other candidly.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I'm saying? It's not the normal, hey, mama, you are mama.
Right.
I love you and respect, but we speak candidly. Right. You done seen some things from me. I done seen some things about you. They're more brother-sister.
I get it.
And LeBron as a young dad, and Bronny as the firstborn, I feel like those two have more of a, like, hey, like, we're boys. Like I'm gonna talk. It almost looks like LeBron is treating Bronny like a young man already, than just, oh man, you're still a little boy. Like they talk.
That's interesting.
They talk. They keep it real. So
that's an interesting
there's
thought.
Different dynamics. I was scared to death of my dad. It's yes sir, no sir. That's our dynamic.
Yeah.
But it appears, and I don't want to judge. I'm not trying to be, but I love it, man. A father's a father, but it's a more of a, we're boys. And I don't think that is necessarily the wrong approach either. It's just a different style of parenting.
Sure. Well, this is what I'm conscious of, because obviously my recognition level or celebrity is like 0.5% of what LeBron James is. But people know who I am when I'm in the gym, whether I'm going to my kids' games or I'm just going to an AAU game. They know. They know who I am, and I know I have eyes on me. And like my son the other day said to me, and both my kids, like, they're conscious of me. They're conscious of my reactions. And my son said to me that his teammates asked the other day, "Go, why does your dad always look mad when he's watching us play?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm just trying to be as non-reactionary as I can.
Yep.
Right? I'm trying to have no emotion. I'm trying not to get on the refs. I'm trying not to do anything.
Yeah. It ain't my show.
Exactly. And so that's just where I come from. And so when I look at what LeBron did the other day, that hits me wrong because that's not the way I approach parenting. Or at least parenting when it comes to basketball and AAU and all of that. And again, and here's the other part that I'm going to say. When you brought it up about like all the black young men out there, all the black men who have grown up and didn't have a father there. And so we instantly go, hey, you know what? LeBron's there. He's there with his kid. And so it's all good. And I reject that at this point because I don't, whether it's black or white, and there is as many absentee, I guarantee we want to go across the country. There are plenty of absentee white fathers too. That ain't just a black thing. But I don't want I don't want our past to be our prologue. I don't want, because all these generations before us did it wrong, that if we do anything, like we're better than that. I'm like, no, let's just hold a standard for ourselves. Black, white, whatever our experience is, we're gonna be fathers. Like I look at you, Ryan, and I'm not giving you extra credit because you're a good dad. I'm appreciating and respecting that you're a good dad, but for me to look at it and go, man, he's a black dude and he's a good dad. To me, that's racism. That's a racist attitude. I just look at you and I look at my friends where I live. I mean, anyone, I look at them and they're being a good dad or they're being a good parent. I'm like, yeah, cool. I respect that. Not like, oh man, you're being a good parent and that's really not, probably the way you were raised or whatever. It's like, I just, at some point we need to stop looking at things through the prism of accepting less than and grading on a curve, if that makes sense. I think to grade on a curve is a racist sensibility, and not to play that card too heavy, but I do think it's looking at things through a prism, and you may disagree. You may feel like, hey, I'm not giving enough credence to what it's like to grow up without a parent and then be a parent yourself. But I just think at some point we gotta let's set the bar for all of us. Let's set a standard and not grade on a curve.
No, I hear you, but the thing is, Rick, the reality is the numbers are so bad. When I say the numbers are bad among African American males and just the situation, it is bad. And a lot of these numbskulls, I'm going to call them numbskulls for some of the things they do. You look and you go, man, this guy murdered, 5 people, or, oh man, gang violence, drug, whatever. No dad at home. These percentages don't lie. So when you do see it, and even at an NBA level, there are a lot of NBA absentee dads. If you don't necessarily get along with baby mom, a lot of these dudes move on and they don't know how to be dads. And it's a vicious circle. So I will take the extent of, yeah, dads, let's be better. Like, just we don't want to applaud you for just being there. I agree with you, Rick. You just being there ain't enough, dude. Like, you should be doing that.
Right.
Like, why am I going to applaud you? You're doing what you should be doing. But it is like an issue. And obviously, like, I don't want LeBron starting the trend of like the dads getting in the layup lines, but maybe the YMCA layup lines I won't have a big gripe with,
So here's the thing.
Maybe not in Vegas.
So if somebody, I guess this is where it kind of divides when it comes to that. I'm not I wouldn't go out of my way to criticize him for that. If you ask me, do I think he should do it? No, I don't think he should do it. But if you want me, like, I guess where I get sideways is people like celebrating him for doing that. And I'm like, no.
He's just there. Yeah, he's there.
Yeah. It's if he's going to practice, I did this one time. Like, the dads got together. We wanted to teach this AAU team a lesson. The guys that we were coaching. Like, you guys weren't playing hard enough. And we kicked their ass. Now, that was in a practice. And if LeBron's showing up at practice and he's dunking and he's like, dude, how much cooler is that? In that you have an exclusive view of watching LeBron James, and he plays a little pickup with you. You're playing up and down the court and you get to play with LeBron James. How, to me, and no one's videotaping it. Like, that's just your experience. It's a little bit like Team USA 92 and all those guys, the practices. They said were the most fun. Why? Because it was just them. They were experiencing something that no one else, they weren't doing it for the crowd. They weren't doing it for fans. It was, we just get the experience of balling with each other.
Take this into account, though, Rick. We can all accept how hard it is or going to be for Bronny. He's never lived the average day or normal day in his life.
That's the other part, too, dude.
Right? But hear this, and I want to know what you think about this. There's an extent of either I'm going through the marketplace with the scarf and a hoodie and glasses over my face.
Yeah.
Or I'm just owning who I am.
Yeah.
And these are shoes nobody's walked in, bro. I mean, think about this, Rick. We're looking at it. This is elite company. You know, how Magic Johnson raised his kids, how Michael Jordan raised his. And we're looking at LeBron James, because as much as you and I want to talk about examples of fatherhood and what should and shouldn't be.
Yeah.
LeBron James is, in a sense, telling Bronny, man, we're going to be free. The people aren't going to own us. We're going to own them. And not in other exact words. They'll get that out of context, but we're going to own Bronny. You're going to own your life.
Right.
I'm going to own mine, and we're going to live.
Right.
You're going to play AAU basketball. You're going to go to Vegas. You are going to live. And you know what? We could break the internet, and he might have told his son, you know what? They're going to hate that we do this, but guess what? We're going to keep doing it.
Yeah. It is. Look, and I'm glad you brought up like Magic and Michael, and because I can't imagine like how hard it is to be a regular dad. I said it, but you're making me rethink. I said, look, it's really hard to be a normal regular dad. But
as my daughter rummages in here. Say hi, puppy.
Hello.
Right on cue, right? Sorry, Rick. Go ahead.
Are you gonna? She's gonna wrap up the show with us.
I guess she is, or she's probably gonna get bored and run out. She just wants to see what's going on.
Okay. All right. So, the last thing I want to hit real quickly here is, so LeBron is front and center. LeBron is making his presence felt. But LeBron shows up for the Frank Vogel press conference, and he stands in the back, and he does not speak. And to me, that was like, okay, wait a minute. What are you doing here? Because if you're going to be there, then people are going to want to hear from you as far as an endorsement or something, or don't be there. Like, you can have a million excuses. I'm out of town. I'm on business, whatever. But you being there, standing in the back and not saying anything, again, unkind. It's unclear and it's unkind. And that's where the confusion that LeBron creates, and when he chooses to be ultra visible and then visible but silent, look, it doesn't surprise me, especially because I already knew that how people felt behind the scenes. It doesn't surprise me that David Griffin said what he said, and it just, I don't know. Look, LeBron is so great in so many ways. Maybe I'm being unfair to think that he should he should have the whole package. But I can't say that he has the whole package because he doesn't. There's some flaws.
Okay, check this though. You don't have to be born yesterday to know how he feels about Frank Vogel. Okay, you're just that high. Okay, we don't need to pretend, Rick. We're not going to do that. But I also throw this out in comparisons. Okay, stop it. As my daughter tries to turn off the microphone, I throw this out in comparisons. Back in 1990, in the 90s, if Michael Jordan popped in on, we don't even remember. I don't even remember the coach before
Doug Collins.
Phil Jackson.
Doug Collins.
Maybe was it Doug Collins?
Yep.
Okay, he pops in the back and just leaves. There's no video. There's no one writing about it. No, nobody even knows, bro. Those stories are just, or the reporters will know, like, hey, man, you shut your mouth or you'll never have access again.
Yeah.
They knew to protect the J. You know what I'm saying? So there's an extent of access that we do have to a megastar like LeBron James, to Kobe Bryant, that we do have. And you know what our job is to do? We clamor onto every little thing.
Yeah.
But I just think it's a little bit of both, Rick, where if this was nobody, it wouldn't be a big idea. And yet, on the other hand, did you know what it means? You know what it means.
Yep. And case in point, we just spent an entire podcast talking about LeBron James in a variety of ways. Yeah.
And he said the only thing we have is a cryptic tweet, right?
Yes. For the most part, yeah, that's the only that and showing up at his son's AAU game and dunking and running onto the floor, and all of that created a podcast that went 45 plus minutes. So we'll end it here. That does it for this episode. Don't forget, we appreciate all of you rating and reviewing our podcasts. Please leave a rating wherever you get your podcasts, and then if you want us to do something for you, screenshot that and send it to @BucherFriends.
Let me throw this out too, Rick.
Yes.
So to all the fans out there, if you're hearing this, we need you to tweet or hop in the Instagram comment section, Bucher and Friends, wherever you do this. And I've got some shoes that I would like to give away, but they're size, like 16 or 17.
Yeah.
So I will ship out a pair of Ryan Hollins tennis shoes. Now, I know you guys very likely do not wear 16 or 17.
Right.
So I want to see the consensus, because we're trying to do some cool things for you guys.
Yes, I did the same thing. I got a pair of Kobe never worn Kobe Air Force Ones mids, the ones that he wore in the 2002-03 season, and they're black purple with the sparkly gold laces. They're a cool looking shoe, size 12, and I don't know whether if you're a sneakerhead you'd want them just for your collection, or whether we got somebody out there who wears a size 12. That's a little more of a standard size than my man's size 16 ski boats. But in any event, we're happy to, if let us know @Bucher Friends if those are something that you guys would be interested in us having a drawing and firing them out to you. All right, that does it for this podcast. In the next, Will Blackman will rejoin me, and we will be discussing NFL. We've got the Hall of Fame game. We still have Ezekiel Elliott holding out. Dak Prescott not paid yet. And I do want to get into the guy who is responsible for all of these running back holdouts. And he is and was a Cowboy as well. We'll discuss that in the next podcast. In the meantime, as always, thanks for listening.